Welcome.
Little Oak Weekly. Nailed it.
Hasn't quite been weekly.
Close.
Yeah. Yeah. We got all kinds of good reasons, no good excuses.
That's right.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you again in this fashion. We have lots to discuss. What's the date today?
November.
We're middle of November, something like that.
18th.
November 18th, we're creeping towards Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We have end of year market challenges that we're facing. We got lots going on in the current world of events.
Yep.
We got business planning to talk about, some stats and data to discuss. And yeah, we'll just kind of, whatever.
Where do you want to start?
Pick through. Well, why don't we start with the market?
Sure. Because it's been a little bit since we've talked about it.
Yeah, why don't we start with the market and then dive into some statistical information and just, pick through that and see where we end up.
Yep.
So we'll start by saying this. I mean, the elephant in the room, you want me to share with you so you can see?
Fine.
So home price index, in our latest office meeting, I referenced home price index. It's been the stat that I've been referencing the most. I lean on it the most for what I would say is accurate data. You can use median and averages and things like that, but median and averages can be unnaturally thrown off on a month-to-month basis if there are irregular sales on the high or the low.
Right.
And median does a bit of a job of, when they collect the data, of throwing out those extremes. Averages does not.
Yep. Home
price index, I think, is the truest indicator of
what is it that they base that on?
So they take, they follow the trajectory of a particular property and watch and not like, I'm not taking a particular address, a
particular type,
whatever. Take your basic 2,500 square foot family home in a particular market or the whole Fraser Valley, and they follow the trajectory of that property type specifically.
Right.
So you're looking at a narrower view of what's happening with something that they deem to be the average and the typical, right? So we're not talking about massive luxury acreage listings, or even the other extreme, like something that's basically a tear down and a lot. We're talking about, so the reason that is, I think, valuable is because we're following, generally speaking, a property type, where it goes over time. And that also happens to be the property type that most consumers buy and are affected by, right? So I think it's a very consistent, accurate way of trying to say what is in fact going on in the market in both a downturn and an upturn, like, either way. And there's always, we have outliers, depending on the type of property you're trying to evaluate or talk about. You could say like, well, I don't think this property quite fits into, I don't think HPI quite represents it properly. Well, fine. There's other data points that you can gather and draw from to deliver, an opinion on. But HPI is definitely, I think, the clearest indicator of the general trajectory of the market. And so this year, if we take detached properties as an example, we have been on a downward trend of HPI since spring. We peaked out in the Fraser Valley. We had a home price index of about 1.5 million. And today our home price index is about 1.4 million. So, 100 grand on 1.5 is 7%.
Is this across the Fraser Valley? Where
I'm looking at the entire Fraser Valley right now. Yep. You can go to we have access to it. Like, I could go Langley and, Brookswood, Langley, whatever. I could go all of Langley. And then I could say as an example, in Langley, the HPI it peaked out as it did in the whole valley at 165. And today it's down to 155. Ironically enough, virtually the same numbers, slightly bumped.
Yep.
So we are in, we have watched our prices fall consistently month over month since spring. And you could say it's 1% or 2% per month or whatever, but we are still in that phase. Hence, we talked about this in the office meeting a couple days, or was that yesterday or 2 days ago, But when we're in this environment, usually the next sale, if you're looking at comparable data and you're saying, well, this sold for that last month. Well, in this environment, typically the next sale is going to sell below the last comparable sale. And I mean, there's exceptions and whatever, but generally speaking, that's what it is. And that is certainly the expectation of the buyers in the marketplace. So, why do we care, and how do we interact with this data, and, how do we deal with that with our clients? Well, in the same way that if you were working with a buyer or a seller in 2021 or 22 or whatever, it was a foregone conclusion that the next sale was going to be higher.
Yep.
And nobody, I mean, buyers didn't like that at the time, but they had no choice. Now, the difference psychologically is that, I do think this is an important difference to point out. And this is really the rub of where we find the greatest challenge for ourselves. In an environment where prices are going up, the person who's being asked to make the mental leap of stomaching the change is the person who's wanting to acquire the asset. Today, the person who's being asked to make the mental leap is the one who's releasing the asset. It's
a very different conversation.
It's a very different conversation because a seller can say, well, no, if this is mine and I view it this way and I think it's important to me and I think it's better than this person thinks it is, and I don't give a damn what the market's doing. If someone wants it, this is what they can pay me for it. And this is why this moment in time seems to be more difficult. It seems to be more difficult to get sellers to align with what's happening than to get buyers to align with what was happening in 21 and 22.
I remember we did training sessions where Ray could walk you through the difference of 50,000 and you're spreading that over 25 years. And here's what that
100%.
It's really hard to do that on the other side where you're talking about
exactly, because the jump that you're making in 21, you're amortizing the debt. You're breaking it down into a payment, right? You go like, well, it's not 50 grand. It's this much a month. All-time low interest rates. A buyer can say, I don't give a rip. It's 150 bucks a month. I want it. Not quite the same conversation for a seller when a seller is taking their equity and relying on that equity for whatever it is they're relying on it for. Now, the thing though that I would still say we're not doing a sufficient job of as an industry, like as agents, I mean, agents, yes, who are listening to this within our brokerage, we could do better, but in its entirety of the industry, like I'm seeing far too many examples and stories where I see people who apparently want to move. They're on the market. They're clearly asking too much money and they're there because maybe their agent hasn't successfully had this type of conversation with them, hasn't found the language or the way or the understanding of the data to be able to have the conversation. And not all of these people are just selling and packing up and not buying. They're doing something with it. And even if they're, sorry, I'm fighting a cold, so I have the sniffles. Even if they're not buying real estate, like let's say a person says, I'm getting out of this real estate, I'm taking the cash and I'm putting it somewhere else. I don't care what it is. It could be you're paying down debt, you're putting in a different type of non-real estate investment. Maybe you're taking that money and you're just helping your kids or whatever. There is still a value to getting that cash today and making those decisions today. Whatever you do with that money, it's going to grow in its own way. So it's not always all a loss, right? If your home was worth 1.8 and today it's worth 1.35 or whatever, that money that you think you're out, you're not out, because whatever you're left over with, you're putting into something today and you're getting at today's value and getting value for putting into that today. So now these are complex conversations and it requires a higher level of financial understanding. And then you got to be able to understand it yourself and walk your clients through it. But the reason why, when we look every month and say, well, we're only averaging about 1,000 sales every month now in the board, the reason we're down from, 2,500 to 1,000 is part of it just market economy related, interest rate related, 100%. But some of it is on us for not being able to properly have these conversations, educate people, and get them to a point where they realize it is still a good idea to bring the number down to a point where a buyer will buy it, so that they can be freed up to do what they want. And so we have to get that. We have to have a clear understanding of the data, but then also do a better job at determining what is it that's important to the seller about selling what they're selling, whether they're, maybe they're physically moving. And then if it's even easier, if they're physically moving and they're going to another property type, depending on what they're doing, some, maybe all of that perceived loss is being gained in whatever they're buying.
Yep.
So, there's that piece as well. But we've got to do, we have to take the conversation beyond, well, this is what I think your home's worth. We got to dive deeper and then determine why is it we're doing this, and focus on the end goal and get them to their end goal and help them understand that the benefit of the end goal is worth the perceived loss that we're taking right now. Is it make sense for everybody? No, of course not. Of course, there are certain people where maybe it's better to keep the property and rent it. But what's not better is just staying on the market
at a high price.
Yeah. Like, if you're not going to sell it, well, then
take it off,
get some revenue out of it if possible. But if a sale is what's really desired, the selling public right now usually cannot arrive at the proper educated conclusion without the help of an agent who knows how to pick apart this data and arrive logically at what is the market value today. That's why we have 90% of the inventory overpriced, because we have people having conversations with the consumers that are terrible conversations. Like, and I know, like, we're all in it. Like, I'm not trying to, like, I have an overpriced listing from time to time. So I'm not saying that I'm perfect every time, but most of the time there's agents that most of the time get it right. And then there's a lot of agents that most of the time are getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And we need to do a better job of getting it right most of the time.
When you have, you talked about the seller that is planning to buy, are you in your conversations with them showing those comparables of what they want to buy to show that? Because
absolutely,
when you're talking about that loss, that or the perceived loss, and how you can make that up, I imagine. And then are you actually comparing that to the same timeline? Like, if a seller has an idea in their head, like, hey, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was getting X. Are you showing that difference in the stuff they're also looking at? Do you know what I mean? So,
yes, 100%.
Okay.
So yeah. Like, you need, absolutely. And that is part of, that's the part of the job that we have to be doing today that we don't always have to be doing in other markets.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And so, so your home, the person's home has dropped $400,000 and they want to move. Well, it's really important to show them that, whatever they're buying has dipped as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it hasn't dipped $400,000. Maybe it's dipped $200,000. So maybe the dip isn't comparable.
Sure. Yeah.
It could be comparable, but it might not be. But the point is that all of that dip is not lost.
Yeah.
Some of it is retained in whatever you're doing.
Sure.
And,
well, there's also value in the end. Like, whatever that person's end goal is, there is some value to getting to that point if it means you.
Well, and I, I'll repeat myself. I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Like, the mindset of, well, we're not doing this now because we're only going to do this. I'll just keep using the same numbers for the conversation. Let's say a home's worth 135 today, and we only want to do it if it's worth 155. Well, things don't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right. So if that home is now going to be worth 155, number one, whatever they think they're going to is also going up. But I would argue that that's not even the most important piece of the conversation. In an environment like we have today, where there's over 10,000 homes for sale, if a person is moving, we have so much to choose from, right? So if you can get to the place where you become a buyer, you now have time and choice and leverage, and you can statistically more easily end up in a place that you want to be in than you could have in 2021.
Yep.
Because in 2021, we all know what that story was. There was no inventory. You're fighting for something. And that locked a lot of people down for a lot of reasons, right? Because people were terrified And then, we had people writing offers, firm and binding deals without having sold their home because that was the only way to do it. And today we've got people still, it's crazy, but we got people running around thinking they want to move and they don't have their home listed for sale. I actually, this is wild. I had a listing that I've just put a deal together on. We were overpriced and we reduced it a little over 200 grand. And so we were on the market for 2 to 3 months throughout the spring, summer. And we knew we kind of picked the high number in the range, but we thought, we might get it. It's kind of a unique property. We gave it a run and we actually did have some interest and we even had an offer, but for other reasons, the buyer was difficult to work with. Couldn't put the deal together. It wasn't actually even price related. We took it off the market, gave it a breather for like a month and a half, went back to market for a little over 200 grand less, got into the price point that we knew was sharp. The moment we did that, in a period of a week, we had like 10, 11, 12 showings, got 3 offers. This just happened like in the last week and a half. Here's the crazy part. All 3 offers, one buyer was not purporting or being honest with us, I think. All 3, though, I'll say were subject to sale. Okay. One of them didn't put subject to sale in the offer, but they had these long conditions. Sure. It's like, okay, I'm treating you as if you're subject to sale.
Were all 3 of them on the market?
No, not one of them had their home listed for sale.
Not one?
No. So wow. They're running around wanting to buy with their agents.
Wow.
Living in this mindset of, well, we can't list our home until we find something.
Is that a 2021 mindset? Because that is what it was like back then. Right
100%.
Now,
we never had, I call it the mind virus. We never had this mind virus until 2020, 2021.
So people are still living.
When we went through the boom, we had a really good boom of 2015, 16, 17, 18. Mm-hmm. This was not a thing. Even in that, and in that environment, we had sales to active listing ratios upwards of 50%. We had prices increasing year over year. We had low inventory. It was hard to get a home. In that environment, it was extremely rare for people to be doing that then. And you can go back in 2005, 6, 7, 8 when the market boomed. Then I can tell you that never happened. Like the mindset was, if I can't afford to buy a home without selling, then I have to sell my home, then become a buyer. And so now, that's okay. I'll just keep rambling.
I have a question.
Well, that's it. So I'm just saying, like, it's crazy that I get 3 offers on this place. We got over 10,000 homes for sale. There's lots to choose from. And all 3 buyers haven't even put their home on the market.
I have 2 questions for you on that one.
Yep.
The first one is, what are you telling your seller? In a situation like that, like what do you...
Well, here's the irony. So my seller, who's in the same market, has heeded my advice, and we are selling before we buy.
Yeah.
So we are taking the risks that everyone should be doing.
A little bit annoyed.
So we're kind of irritated by it because it's like, this is not the way the world should work. Everyone should flip the dominoes on the board. Yep. That's fine. People can do what they want. We're becoming sellers. We're going to get a firm and binding contract. We're going to negotiate longish dates, which is what we've ended up doing here in this deal. And, we're going to do things in the right order. And then once we have a firm and binding contract, we're going to be in the driver's seat because now all this inventory is out there that we can choose from. And do you mean
firm and binding outside of a subject to sale? Because
so you can't, we like to, so in this particular scenario, I don't, I'm still working on, we're still in the deal. So I don't want to divulge too much, but the reality is we concluded that we have no choice but to work with one of these people. There seemingly wasn't a buyer in the marketplace.
But does that put you now in a position of having to write a subject to sale?
We're not writing yet.
Until
So we've chosen what we think is,
which sucks for yourself.
We've chosen the best buyer. I did a ton of work.
Sure.
Before we accepted the deal, I researched the homes that these people all had to sell.
Yep.
I determined
Did
what
you
is
have
the
an
most
idea of like what they were going to list for. Like,
I nailed it all down.
Okay, cool.
We got it in writing. We said like, okay, we'll go with you. We'll do this deal. Your home must be on the market by this day, and it must not be higher than this price.
Yep.
If you are agreeable to that, we will work with you.
Yeah.
And that is in writing.
Okay.
And so, in my opinion, it's a very saleable home.
Sure.
That's going to hit the market today, tomorrow.
Yep.
And
At
we've
a price
given
point that
them at a price point that I believe is, even in this environment, is going to sell within a week to 10 days, because it is priced the way it needs to be priced based on what we've discussed.
Yep.
It's going to be the best priced home in the marketplace for what it is, and it should sell right away. So we're fortunate that, we had that type of buyer and we could negotiate that. And so for those reasons, we chose to proceed with that buyer, give them a short period of time to do that. We didn't have another buyer who didn't have something to sell, which is fine, but it is definitely an indicator of what is going on in the marketplace with how agents are handling the consumer.
That was what I was going to ask you as part two is that commonplace right now because that seller doesn't just have that mindset, I don't think, by themselves, or I feel like that's a very easily overcomable thing if you're talking to that person. The consumer has that mindset because we trained them to have it for 3 years. Yeah,
right? And I get it. We went through that environment.
Agents also were sort of trained through that period as well. So that's why I'm wondering, and
so this is we have to untrain ourselves. Just as we adapted in 20 to 22, we have to adapt now, and we have to lead the consumers in the way that's going to lead them to what they're trying to achieve. Here's the other part of the story. We chose one person, right? We'll see how it works out. There's no guarantee it works out. And even if it does work out, there's 2 other people, one of which who's extremely disappointed that they didn't get it. I ended up in a conversation with their agent, and it was very direct and clear and honest conversation, to which there was no pushback from the other agent. They are experiencing this disappointment because they didn't do things in the right order. They would not be here if they didn't choose this path. In fact, they could probably be proud owners of this property today,
even if they had it listed.
Exactly. But this is a systemic problem in our industry right now that we only have ourselves to blame. The agents, we've led people through other changes. We have to lead them through this change. And this involves clear understanding of the facts. And we have to have the courage to tell people this is the way it's got to be. And then share the stories. Like when someone pushes back and says, well, no, this is the way we think we need to do it. Okay, well, great. Let me tell you a story about where that ends up. Because there's about a 1% chance that this ends the way you want it to end. And there's a 99% chance that you're the person on the sidelines losing out over and over again because somebody else has done things the right way. Or maybe not. Maybe no one else has done it exactly the right way, but somebody else is doing it a version of a way you're doing it that seemed to be slightly better than what we can offer. And then there's the other piece too. When you are writing offers subject to sale, whether you are cognitively aware of it or not, consciously aware, whatever, you are going to pay more money. You have less negotiation power. So if the goal is to, end up in the best circumstances with the best deal, with the best numbers, this is not the way to do it.
No.
It is clear and obvious. You can talk to anyone. Everyone knows it. You get a subject to sale offer. Will a seller accept it? Yeah, under the right conditions. If you give me the number I want, then I'll take it. That changes on each deal, but it is more than if someone walks in and says, here's an offer, I need 10 days of conditions and I'll buy your home. Totally different conversation. So these are the types of things that we've got to be leading in and showing the consumers that this is the path. And then if we could all do this effectively, rather than having 1,000 sales a month, we'd probably have 1,300 sales or 1,400 sales a month. So the low sales, is it economy driven, interest rate driven? Yes. But it is also impacted by incompetence with our industry in leading the consumers in a way that they need to be led today.
That's crazy. I didn't realize how many were coming up as subject to sale without the home actually being on the market, because subject to sales weren't always uncommon. They weren't nice, but they weren't uncommon, but at least the house was typically up for sale. That's nuts. It's weird to me to have a conversation with a buyer and be on board with writing an offer without them selling.
And what's really crazy is that the agents that I was dealing with in this circumstance, these are not
No, they're
brand new people who don't know what they're doing. Like these are highly experienced. Your OCD is just driving you nuts, eh? It's amazing. I haven't noticed this once, and he's losing his mind.
I hear words coming out of your mouth, but they don't mean anything.
It's not going to stick. Just pull it away, throw it out. There you go. So yeah, like we are here, and the only thing that's going to turn around the volume of transactions, if the economy remains the same and interest rates generally remain the same, buyer and seller sentiment remains the same, the only way to drive more sales and revenue is, there's a percentage of the marketplace that would transact if they were led differently.
It's funny. You said those exact same words in different markets. Like that the consumer would transact if they had better information.
Sure.
Like we've talked that exact same words in a completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not just real estate. Like, okay, I'll use just a recent story of myself. So we've arrived at the conclusion we're selling my wife's vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
We've had this vehicle for a few years. I've been thinking like, I should probably get out of it. It's reaching a point in kilometers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Reaching a point in kilometers where it makes sense to sell it, I think, for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
Whatever, don't need to get into all those things, but I've been stuck and I've been inactive, right? I've had this thought for a year actually. Mm-hmm. And here I am a year later, still with the vehicle. Mm-hmm. I haven't transacted.
Yep.
The only reason I'm transacting today, this week, I've negotiated a sale, the sale's done. And, we're putting ourselves in a position where we will be a buyer. Haven't bought anything yet.
Yep.
Because I was doing this on my own. And I finally realized, like, I don't have the time. I'm not intelligent with vehicles. I don't know what I'm doing.
It takes a lot of.
I talked to a professional who is a broker. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like this is what this person does. The moment I ended up in a conversation with the broker, there was action because he laid it all out. He's like, hey, here's the high low on your vehicle. Here's why your vehicle's worth this. If you get out of it for this now at this kilometers, we can get you this. I'll take care of everything. And then now you're going to have cash in your hand to go make a purchase decision for a new vehicle. Mm-hmm. And by the way, in the interim, I know it's not quite exactly the same, obviously, but we have a short-term rental lined up so that I don't have to worry about being homeless, carless for a period of time.
Sure.
Well, I mean, and we're going to wait months. No, we're not going to wait months. But like in the meantime, we're going to have a short-term rental so that we can take our time. But I wanted to have the cash out of the vehicle sale before we went and bought.
Yep.
And I was stuck for a year. I've been stuck. I thought about selling this thing when it was at 70 to 75,000 kilometers. And now it's at like 95,000 kilometers. Mm-hmm. Probably should have done it a year ago. Didn't do it. But what got me unstuck? I listened to a professional who told me what to do. I took direction and I did it.
Yep.
This is exactly the same thing. And so thankfully I landed on an individual who, explained things to me in an intelligent manner mm-hmm. and got me going, and the deal's getting done. This is exactly what we do every day. And right now we've got too many professionals in our industry who aren't capable of having that conversation, aren't capable of getting the consumer to move. Are we going to have 3,000 consumers transact in next month? No. Obviously, if we did everything right, that still wouldn't happen because of the environment we're in. But we could very easily have another 20 to 30% more that is not on the environment or the economy. It is completely on the skill set and the ability of the professionals having the conversation. So, and then you said it's the same conversation I've said, in other markets. Yeah. Absolutely. Because, when the roles were reversed and, it wasn't hard to convince a seller to move because, whatever, they were so happy with the number. Mm-hmm. The greater challenge was, there was still a challenge getting sellers to move because like the thought was, well, where am I going to go? Right. So there was that piece, but then there was also the piece of, well, I just can't show the buyer why they should be willing to pay this much mm-hmm. in this environment. And here's the reality. Like we heard that story all the way from the middle of 20 until the middle of 22, right? Yep. That was the narrative. Mm-hmm. And if you look at that entire narrative, as much as, people like to look back now and go, well, like think about all the high prices that were paid. The vast majority of people that actually transacted in that time made the right decision, are happy with their purchase.
Yep.
And the only thing you can look back on is like, you could look back on people who made some crazy purchases in, February, March of 2022 and say, oh, wow, if they could have that back, they would take that back. Sure. If it was an investment property or, something that was outside your principal residence, but like if you sold a home in that time and bought in that time, it doesn't matter what you paid. You sold for a premium number as well. So it doesn't make a difference. The only thing that you can look back on with, revisionist history and say, well, I wish I had is the investment purchases, the secondary purchases that were made in that time. But even then though, I would argue that like, if the purchase was if it was a good purchase, a sound purchase, and a person wanted to hold something for 10 to 20 years or whatever it was,
still good.
You got access to cheap money. You made a long-term decision. Hopefully you acquired a property that you wanted to have long-term. And there's all kinds of people that are rethinking that now.
Sure.
So, maybe they overestimated their financial capabilities or what they wanted to do. Life changes, family situations change. But over that whole journey of 2 to 2.5 years, you could still look back on the vast majority of moves and purchases that happened in that time and say, those were the right things to do in that moment.
Yep.
It's only the very, very end where prices were at their highest that people now want to go, oh, see, I told you that was a terrible idea. This was stupid. Sorry, you don't get to live life that way. If we could all just only ever sell at the very peak and buy at the very bottom, we'd all be geniuses. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Cool.
So use home price index, and I'll probably so we're going to talk a little bit about business planning.
Yeah. Are you pulling that information into it?
Well, I think I'm going to so Amy Bradabo texted me after the last meeting, and she sent a text. She's like, we need a session on stats and data and how to have these conversations. And so I think what we're going to do,
I feel like there's a recorded one somewhere.
There definitely is. So maybe we'll dig that out and repost that or something. But I think what we're going to do is like for business planning this year, each year's different, right? Like I look back on the sessions we've done over the last 10 years. And I mean, it makes no sense to hit on the notes that we hit on in 2021 that we would need to hit on this year. It's just, it's two different things. But business planning, there's a lot of business planning that is, it stands outside of market conditions. It's how are you setting yourself up for, with your people and revenue streams. And, so there's fundamentals that are all the same. However, I think I'm going to put a specific stats piece into the business planning because I don't think we can hit it enough.
Sure. And
it's hard right now. Like it's tough to grapple with. These conversations are difficult. I was in a conversation yesterday where, I don't always get what I want, what I think is required, but I kind of like, if I was trying to get here, I got here, right? We were starting here.
Yep.
And I got almost all the way there. And I wouldn't have got almost all the way there with like literally the conversation I had with the client was, we're preparing to go to market. And it was exactly this conversation. If I recorded it and played it here, there's no difference. The only difference is that you get objections. So there's understanding the data.
Yep.
And then there's handling objections.
Sure.
And we talked about this in the meeting a couple of days ago where, Ray said something where, Ray says something the way Ray says it,
sure.
Right? Which Ray is a great orator and he's got, whatever. He's got courage and he is not afraid to offend someone.
Yep.
And he has a way of saying things. And so for sometimes when we hear people like that speak, it's difficult for us to go like, well, I don't talk like that.
Right.
I can't say it like that. But there's a way for all of us to be courageous and say very difficult things in circumstances where we could borderline be offending people.
Sure.
You could be losing the client or losing the listing. And so I would say that, I'm not Ray. I have my own way of saying things. And I navigated a situation yesterday where like it got a little bit contentious in the conversation. And the way I handled it is like, I said like, listen, like, I don't enjoy this. Literally, this is what I said. I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy disappointing you. I don't want to wake up in the morning and go, how can I come here and give you terrible news and have you think that I believe that your property sucks?
Yeah.
That's not something I want to do every day. What I want to do every day is be truthful and deliver advice that I can put my name to.
Yeah.
And so the challenge here is that I know what is true according to the data. I know what is true according to the conditions of the market. You want me to say something to you that would make you feel better. That would be untrue. And so I don't think you want me to lie to you. I think you want me to tell you the truth, but this is the gap we find ourselves in. I cannot stand behind what you're wanting me to say because I know it's factually untrue. And then, there's other objections that come up, right? Like typically in that moment, you get scenarios like, and I've been in this, where someone says like, well, maybe it's the marketing. Maybe you're not, maybe that's the reason my place isn't selling. Maybe this isn't good enough or that's not good enough. And again, we'll talk about crazy things will come up and anyone listening will laugh when they hear this, but like someone might talk about the write-up or the photography or, and are there places where properties are not marketed properly? 100%. There's some terrible marketing out there. But assuming that everyone listening here is doing all the right things and a property is presented well, it takes courage and a willingness to, step into uncomfortable conversations to look at somebody and say, I disagree. It's not the marketing. It's not a photo. It is the fact that we are overpriced. And I happen, because I was in this car buying experience, I used this exact analogy with these people. And it's true. I said, there's lots of cars for sale right now. And if you talk to any salesperson, you'll know that there's thousands of cars sitting on car lots and there's thousands of cars that aren't getting calls. No one's coming to see them. No one's test driving them. No one's sitting in them. This is equivalent to showings and interest from buyers. Everybody in the car world knows the cars that are getting the interest in the calls are the few cars that are priced properly. And then miraculously, if the car's priced right, the photos must have been good. The write-up must have been phenomenal. The presentation, the video must have been a world-class video. We all know that. Are there times that the presentation is crap? 100%.
Sure.
But what a buyer is not stupid. A buyer of a car is not stupid, and a buyer of a house is not stupid. They will act when the price is properly reflective of the market conditions. Yeah. And so that's the exact analogy I used in the conversation. And, does the conversation get uncomfortable? Yes, but not bending. See, it's in those moments that a lot of people bend. And then in bending, the language we're using, the body language, the way we're concluding those conversations, we're leaving our clients with the belief that things might work at this price. And then we walk away from those meetings and a lot of people would go like, that's not going to sell that number, but I got the client and I got the listing and then away I go. And then what do we know? Like a week or two later, it's the same story over again. And we're lined up for more, we got to have the courage to be truthful with people, tell them you love them, tell them that, you want the best for them and you want to get the most. But by me loving you, me doing the best job is me telling you the truth. Yeah.
Especially from an agent perspective, you're about to spend money on it. Like you will make money when it sells, but you're about to put money out on it.
Right now, 90% of the time you won't.
It's not right. So,
roughly 10% of the inventory selling. And we all know that, the stuff that's set, like there's 10% every month, right? So then you could say, well, over 9 months, everything's going to sell. We know that's not the case. New inventory comes on. Some homes reduce prices to the right number. Many don't.
Yeah.
And then it's wasted time and money.
So back to stats and part of the business planning.
Sorry.
Are we doing stats? You want to do some parts of stats into the business planning?
Yeah. So what we're going to do, like business planning, there's I refine it over the years, and I think differently about it over the years.
Sure.
But it's there are strategies to use, there are systems to use, but then there's a mindset to have that encompasses all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think now more than ever, business planning in 2021, like a lot of it was like, I don't like there's enough transactions out there. It's how do I get my share of the pie and all the transactions that are there. Today, because we don't have the transactions, the mindset we need to have is that, well, transactions come from relationships. And so if a person wants to sell 20 homes in a year, on average, if you want to sell 20 homes in a year, I can tell you that you probably need to have 200 people in your life who would on most days say that Justin's my guy.
You're the guy.
Right? Yeah. Now, does that mean you have to have 200 people in your database? No, I'm saying 200 people in your life. So, your database might not be that big, but you've got some other affiliations and associations, and, you're on this PAC committee, you're on that leadership group, you're in this church or whatever. The reason I say 200 is because, again, on average, 5% of people will move in a year. So if you know 100 people, 5 of them are going to move.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really good and people love you and you have 100, then you're going to get all 5 of those opportunities. Roughly half of those people are going to then buy something.
Mm-hmm.
There's your 7.5 transactions. And then if you're decently good at getting referrals, you're going to get a couple other spinoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not factoring in things like sign calls and anything else,
Sure.
right? That's what I'm saying. If a person says, well, I want to sell 20 homes, the place to start is okay, what are the relationships in your life? We need to take account of what are you involved in? Who is in a database that you have an active communication strategy for, where you can drive revenue from? And then we can make predictions. Like if a person says, well, I've only got 80. Well, okay, if you got 80, you got a bit of an uphill battle here. And then we have to talk about how can I build more relationships? What's a fast and efficient and useful way to do that? Because this business is relationship driven. There's times, that we go through where it's easier to randomly encounter a transaction.
Sure.
When deals are flying and the market's hot and everyone's buying and selling, can you just fluke out into sales? Yeah, totally. Because there's so much pie to go around. You just stumble into it. And then you can unnaturally start to think, well, I'm a guy that's capable or a girl that's capable of selling this much. Well, when you strip all that away and you get into an environment like this, you realize that the extra deals aren't floating around. You're not bumping into someone in a coffee shop who says, hey, can you write this deal up for me at this pre-sale because I was going to buy it anyway. It's the only deals you're getting are the ones that come to you through your relationship. So our business planning is going to focus a lot on taking inventory of our relationships, expanding them where they need to be expanded, and then strategies for driving revenue from those relationships. And then in that, I think it's worthwhile that we will hit this. We'll hit the data and the stats again, because
it is a really important part.
The moment you're in a relationship with someone, you have to be able to have these conversations. And the difference between those that are highly efficient with their relationships versus those that aren't is that, you could take 100-person database and give it to, a fairly new, inexperienced agent and watch them run it for a year, and they're going to get 4 transactions out of that database. Then you could take those exact humans and give them to someone who's been in it for 20 years, who does everything right, and they might drive 10 transactions out of that database. Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that person knows how to have these conversations. They have strategies, they have the tools, they know how to communicate, and they know how to bring people to a point of transacting that others don't.
Right. Sweet. So when are we doing this? December 10th? Yeah. Is that what we're planning for?
Yeah. So December 10th is a planned last office meeting of the year.
Yep.
So what we'll do, we'll keep the office meeting portion shorter than we normally do. It might be, 15, 20 minutes, something like that, or maybe 20 minutes. And then we will roll right into business plan from there. So we'll do it live. We'll also record it.
Yep.
So people can watch it recorded, but if you want to interact and be a part of it, and this is a type of session where we do a lot of live questions and actual like problem solving in the moment. So you will undoubtedly get more from it if you're physically there. I mean, you can still watch it afterwards. There'll still be some value.
But if you can't come,
yeah. And then from, what inevitably happens is after each year, after we do this, there's always, a group of keeners that want to work through some specific details of what they're doing. And I would say there's probably, maybe there'll be something that happens organically where like the following week, a group of people go for lunch or something like that to like hash out some things. So I'm open to that, but that'll be basically on a whatever consumer driven basis. See what comes of it, but it'll be highly valuable. We do this every year. I've done it for a lot of years, and I would say every time there's those that come away and they do what they should do. They implement everything, and it makes a significant difference. The other thing I want to do in that, I'm putting you a bit on the spot here, is there is this, we've talked about this, and I know people within our brokerage have done this, but everybody there should be, I want to do a bit of a tutorial on the Google profile.
Well, the stuff we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can ask Chantel. It works.
Well, this is why. So Chantel did it this year with you, and she drove, I don't know how many sales, just from 3 or 4 deals specifically from her Google profile. So, in a world where we're looking for more transactions and more relationships, this is like a very easy thing that everyone can do. And so we'll touch on that as well.
Sure.
Yep. Anything else?
No.
You're looking at me.
Well, okay. In the high level version of the conversation, because it has come up a lot with our agents, with people, just in conversation, obviously the couch and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a deep conversation. I think the biggest thing I would ask you, because I've had agents ask me, is what is your conversation like when people are asking you about it, without going into the weeds of the details of it? When a client is concerned when talking to you, what are you saying to them?
Well, I was in this 2 days ago. I had a listing appointment come out of the blue so I would say this, generally speaking, the people that are going to be concerned about it are people that have a problem with it.
Yep.
So there's a portion of our clients in our society that
makes sense.
It's probably nowhere on their radar, and it's not going to come up. It's not going to come up with, I don't even know. I don't even know what the percentage would be, but it's going to start to come up more, depending on how this all goes and where it goes. And I don't know where it's going. So, I mean, I had to speak to it because I was in a meeting 2 days ago where people called me up and they said, we're leaving British Columbia and we're going to Alberta. And they had made, so there wasn't like, they weren't asking me like, well, what do you think or whatever. Sure. Like it was, they'd made up their mind and they wanted to know the value of their property, and we're going to try to get out of here in the next few months. So, that's one way in which it comes up. And the reality is that, I don't know if I draw I don't think I draw quite the same conclusions they draw. I might in another 6 to 12 months. I'm not sure. But they're out. And so, that's one way it comes up. Probably the more challenging way that it comes up is just people are looking for guidance on how to think through it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And
because I think a lot of people probably don't totally understand it either. When you're talking about how title works and, like I think there probably is a large number of the consumer that really isn't totally sure how it could affect them. So
I would say this. So here's what what I've been saying to people, and I think that this is true. In fact, nobody would argue this. This process, at least for now, until there's more clarity, is undermining our title system and creating insecurity, and in specific areas of the province, at least right now, there's just an unknown, like what's going on, and we're seeing evidence of that in the way banks are handling the situation. So I would say how you handle it. It's probably, you're only going to get these questions from people that probably have a problem with it. You're not going to get questions from people who either it's not on their radar, they don't care, or they're just aligned and think that everything that's going on is good. So that means that when you're in these scenarios, you're probably more likely talking to people who take issue with it. And I think how a person answers that is probably going to depend a little bit on how they think about it. And my comment would be, and I said this in the office meeting, I think that it's incumbent on everybody to gain a clear understanding of how our country's aligned with the United Nations and UNDRIP, which I always forget how to interpret that acronym, but you can Google it. That happened in 2005 or 7 or something like that.
Yep.
And everything that we're seeing play out right now is the result of that. It's when the countries of the UN got together and said, we are going to agree that this is how we're going to think about our Indigenous peoples and what we need to do moving forward. And then in Canada, we had that Truth and Reconciliation study that came out of the same philosophy of that.
Yep.
And these are the things that have dictated our path forward. So, now we're coming to this realization that for the last 20 years, the people that we've put into power have made these decisions and charted the course for our province and for our country. And if we take issue with anything that's being done at this point in time, this is not a decision that was made yesterday. For now, like if you were to question any of our people in power, whether it's BCREA or our government or anybody in our organizations, they're not going to turn around and say, you're right, this isn't the right thing. They are aligned with these overarching principles that our country has been tracking towards for almost 20 years. So you're going to get, you're not going to find anybody that says this is bad. You're maybe going to find people that say, well, I don't want to talk about it because everyone's worried about being called a racist if they don't totally align with it.
Yep.
So that's why I think a person needs to understand UNDRIP, Canada's position in the UN, look at what we've done over the last 10 to 15 years, look at what other countries in the UN are doing versus what Canada's doing, and you'll find that Canada is way farther ahead than, and by farther ahead, I don't mean that's good. I just mean they're way more active,
more aggressive with it.
My own interpretation of that is that this is the thing that Canada can do because we don't have a military. We don't have a lot of other things. And so, we're trying to show the world, look at how amazing we are and whatever. And I mean, this is, I think, the natural outcome of things like, what was taken as gospel truth in the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation study, and then land acknowledgements for the last 10 years or whatever that's been. Like, we've been standing up saying it's not our land.
Yeah.
And I think that, when that started, I would say your average person, I'd put myself in that category too. I didn't even know what that, like, what is this? What are we doing? And then over time and then before you know it, here we are. Like, we've just established this record, and now the entirety of our population is on record as apparently having agreed to the fact that it's not our land. So is this really that shocking? I don't think it's that shocking. And so people are waking up to it now. And I think what we're finding, or maybe going to see, is that maybe those that were seemingly comfortable with the trajectory over the course of the last 10 to 15 years are not so comfortable with it anymore. And so back to your original question of, how do you handle this? These are the answers and the solutions to all of this does not happen in this domain.
No.
Like, this is the really frustrating part.
Yeah.
And I referenced COVID, in the office meeting as well. Like, the extremely frustrating thing is that we have we cannot solve the issue within the realm of the real estate industry. But we can very quickly become divided.
Sure.
And, these are hot, contentious topics. But if we have a problem with things, we have to take it up to the chain, to the levels of government. It's on each of us to talk to our representatives, to get vocal. And I would even say that's not going up the chain to BCREA or anything like that, because BCREA is a part of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to just, and there was a Zoom meeting yesterday where it's incredibly obvious that, they're not going to take a position other than the position that they're told they have to take. Mm-hmm. So if you have a problem with the position, then you got to go outside of the realm of the real estate industry, go directly to your representatives and voice your opinion. In the meantime, the way my opinion of how we have to conduct ourselves is dependent on each of your clients. Each of your clients are going to have different viewpoints on this, and probably, each person would have, the most of their clients would probably be aligned with how they think, or generally speaking.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And you're going to encounter different things. And I think that most people that have a problem with it or want to talk about it, at least right now, the people that want to talk about it are people that are probably concerned. But there's a whole section of, our province that this isn't even on their radar right now. It wouldn't even be a concern. They don't think it's a big deal. And so I don't think we're going to encounter it to the degree that we're concerned about it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's top of mind for us because we make money off of the title system.
Yep.
Right? Like, this is our industry. So for us, it's like, holy crap. I do think that you could walk into a number of situations right now. If you were to bring it up, people would be like, huh? Oh,
kind of heard about it.
They'd be like, yeah, sure. I read about that. Like, what is that? What's going on?
100%.
So, while I do think it's a serious issue, we are notorious for this in our industry. Like, the moment something is important to us,
it's important.
It's like, oh, you light your hair on fire, and every freaking story and Instagram post is this and that. And it's like, I
would guess most industries
do not think that's the right way to handle it. I do not think that this should be handled on stories or posts or whatever. And the way to handle it is like, the mechanisms in our democracy are, you go to your appointed leaders and you voice your opinion, and you do it loudly and clearly and repeatedly.
Yep.
And so that's what you got to do. And if you don't do it, then tough shit. Like, that's the only way to get your voice heard. And I think within our industry, I'm not saying that, don't speak up within our industry, but understand that, our regulators are just doing what our government is telling them they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nobody, you're not going to find any leader within our industry that takes a different position than what, than what, they're not going to, speak against the current narrative.
Yeah.
Because they're protective of their job. They're afraid of being canceled or called something they don't want to be called. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, a lot of them, maybe all of them, or the most of them, agree with everything that's being done.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like, there is there's a certain amount of our society, and I don't know how many it would be, that agree with all of this. Mm-hmm. And they're allowed to agree with it. That's, just like there's a group that's allowed to disagree with it. But if you disagree with it, my suggestion would be speaking to your government representative. Yep.
All right. I think we should probably wrap it up. We have the thing on December 10th. I was going to ask you though, we're November 18th, I think we said. So just to end this off, going into conversations with sellers right now, are you comfortable listing homes right now into this market going into December?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and this is not even just true of this year. Like, this is every year. I tell people, I've told them this for years. Like, I know that we're going to see, like, right now, whatever the listing inventory is, let's look at it. It's like just over 10,000 or something like that. We're going to see inventory drop substantially.
Yeah.
Here, let's go active listings.
You mean drop into the new year?
In this time of year, like, as you get into Christmas, people just take their homes off the market. So first of all, you get two things that happen. There's not the same new listings piling in.
Yep.
For that reason, there's a lot of people who may want to sell. They go, we'll wait till January, February,
Yep.
whatever. And then you get people who have been on the market. Why can't I find Fraser Valley? Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
All price ranges. Oh, that's why. Click that. There we go. We have, so in the residential, it's 8,300. And then when you combine the commercial, it's just over 10,000. I think on the commercial side, it's just over $2,000. So let's call it 10,300, 400, something like that. So we're going to see new listings drop. And if we just go to new listings, we had in September, we had 3,150.
The drop like every December.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just go back historically. So December 20. So we've been clipping along around 3,000 on average new listings a month this year, probably slightly higher because of the peak months of 33, 34, 3,500. But look back at the other Decembers. December 2024, we only had 1,100 new listings. December 2023, we only had 800 new listings. December 2022, I know the world was slightly different.
Sure.
We only had 700.
That's crazy.
So we're going to experience that again. So we're going to have less new listings coming in. And then we're going to have current inventory come off the market. So what's going to happen is the total active inventory is going to drop substantially. Right now, our active inventory is 8,200. Last year at Christmas, it dropped all the way down to 5,100. But we're not going to go that low. So if you look at where we were, we came into, in the fall of 2024, we came into Christmas with about 7,500. Okay. Maybe not quite 7,500.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we're going into Christmas with 8,200.
Yeah.
If we just look at the data, look at how consistent the dip is every year. I know you guys can't see this, but
you can see it on the Stats Center in Paragon.
Yeah. I would predict if we use the metrics, let's say we went down roughly 20% inventory.
Yeah.
So we're going to go down to maybe 6,500 listings, right? In the month of December and then early part of January. So why is that important? Well, less competition. So, and now, a person could say, well, there's less sales as well. Of course, yes, absolutely. But if a person is wanting to sell and the conversation is, we've been on the market already, should we take it off?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You're now removing 20% of your competition.
Yeah, sure.
Like, you're not going to have a showing on Christmas Day. We're not going to bug you on the 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve. It's really, I've made lots of sales in that December 15 to January 3 range over the years.
Yep.
And numerous times I've looked back on those sales going like, geez, I don't even think we would have got that at any other time because there happened to be a buyer who needed to buy and they had to pick from what was out there. So the people who are already on the market, like, there's no reason not to stay on the market, in my opinion. The people who are thinking of coming to market and going like, well, maybe we'll wait and go on January 15th. Again, depending on the circumstance, it's like, well, is there a reason why we're waiting? Now, maybe you're not ready. It doesn't make sense for your life. Sure, fine, whatever. But if you're ready to go, we know we're going to have way less inventory. What are we doing? We're not hurting ourselves by going on December 1 versus waiting for January 1. The only thing we can guarantee is that the deeper we get into January, the more competition is going to pop up.
Yep.
So, there's maybe some other things to discuss there, people's lives, what's going on, whatever. But just looking only at the data and letting the data drive our decisions, I would stay on the market or go to market. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep. Are we done?
Yep. December 10th.
Okay.
Keep it in your
so,
calendar.
and then also, just reminder, I know people have seen this, but we've got our Christmas party coming up. What's that day?
December 6th.
December 6th. That's going to be great fun, different than other years. We've broken
location.
Yeah, we've broken off of the location that we had for many years, and we're at
Otter Trail
Winery, which is more central for everybody coming from different parts of the Lower Mainland. It's basically close for everybody. No matter where you drive from, you can get there in like 20, 25 minutes tops.
That's great.
And it's a beautiful venue. It's not a sit-down dinner program. It's more of a canapes, appies, and walk around with a glass of wine or whatever in your hand.
Entertainment.
We've got some live music. We've got an indoor outdoor area. We're gonna have fire pits set up. It's stunning, and it's, you know, you don't, if you can only make it for an hour or an hour and a half, that's fine. You don't have to give your whole night away, because we know it's a busy time of year. But I think it's a nice change, and people are gonna really enjoy it. It's great food and awesome venue. So looking forward to doing that.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.